You know me, I always like to go a little early, a little bit before the time I schedule. So hope you guys are enjoying your Memorial Day weekend. I am attorney Michael Ehline. I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas. I primarily do catastrophic injury cases, but I take requests from my audience. My background is originally in appellate law, civil rights, police shooting and tight handcuff cases, false imprisonment, and I have a strong background in appellate law. I became a lawyer on the law study program in California and ended up externing for the prosecutor's office in LA, as well as I was a judicial extern for the California Court of Appeal. And so I have a pretty decent background in the law. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I have one of the biggest motorcycle accident settlements in the history of the United States, over $10 million for a veteran who was badly injured in a motorcycle accident. So that's how I support my family. But my true love is natural law, John Locke, Thomas Aquinas, and teaching people about where their natural law rights come from, their creator, not from the government or the state, contrary to what the Marxist-run education system wants you and your children to believe. Your rights come from your creator, as evidenced by the Declaration of Independence. Hey, Steve. Hey, Grateful Dabs. Good seeing you. And I know I have a bunch of text messages from a lot of my subscribers, and I need to follow up on them. But the last several days, I've been working really hard to really make a good faith effort to get to the gym, doing a lot of back exercises, a lot of reverse Roman chair setups, spinal erectors, and stuff like that, trying to get myself squared away. Give me some 5x5s that you guys can hear me, please, so I know that I'm not just talking out my rear end to the air. And yeah, good seeing you guys. So today, it's in the description, but I'm going to cover a couple of really interesting cases, and they both have to do with the U.S. Supreme Court and why I always advocate for forming parallel systems and trying not to bring your case before the black-robed taskmaster, and to always be honorable and basically stay out of the system as much as possible, because once you get entangled into the system, you get caught up in the system. Good. I see the 5x5s. Good job. Hey, this is a pretty good look. Hey, what do you guys think? I really like these Corvettes. Check this thing out. I think that these Corvettes look like the freaking, like a Ferrari. I think we're gonna lose them. Yeah, I don't have my camera set up good enough. There, look. What do you guys think? Is that thing cool or what? Let's try to get up on them. Really like these new Corvettes. I think they're dope. Anyway, so this shout out to Steve Lados over at Lados Law. I wanted to give him some credit because he sort of gave me the idea to do this video as I cruise over to Powerhouse Gym. And by the way, I really think these bicycles that these kids are driving that have these electric motors where they soup them up so they go super fast and they get out in traffic, I think they're really dangerous, and I think that a lot of parents are going to lose their children. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Jody, hello. Good seeing you, ma'am. So anyways, I really like these Corvettes, man. Check that bad chicken out. Lost him now, but really like those Corvettes. Think they're super cool. Looks like he's got some super low profile 24s or 25s in the back. Check that thing out. Sick looking ride, man. Holy shit, bejesus. Too bad a Tesla can smoke that thing, right? The days of the muscle car are over, guys, unfortunately. All right, so in the description, I have the name of the Supreme Court case, but this was inspired by Steve Lados over at Lados Law. So we'll get into it. So what happened is 5 Supreme Court justices, and I'm going to try, and I'm going by memory because I'm driving, so I don't have the ability to look at notes. So give me a bunch of ones for my horrible memory. And looky there, we have a Nevada cop right there on his Harley Davidson. I really like these Harleys. He's checking out the Corvette too. I know you guys can't see him, but man, that is a sweet looking ride. That is a really good looking Corvette, man. Wow. Look at that thing. So, man, oh man, that is a beauty. So anyways, really like that Corvette, and I like the Harley Davidson. In California, in communist Fornia, they ride around on ice burners now, which I hate. Thanks, Steve. All right, so this particular program, I'm going to try to cover this as quickly as I can because I definitely want to get a workout in. But yeah, my sciatica has gone down quite a bit. I do want to go out. Hopefully, if Lane is still locked up, maybe I can figure out a way to go and visit him. Try to give him some more support like I tried to do with Chili when he got locked up. That's what I like to do. I like to give people hope. Try to help people understand that, you know, God is on your side, man, if you do the right thing. So, what's going on here is this is a case where 5 Supreme Court justices disqualified themselves from hearing a lower court case. And it was a lawsuit, I believe, that was filed against Penguin Books, and obviously several of their co-defendants. There's always co-defendants because as lawyers, we want to go after the deep pockets and we want to make sure there's more than enough money to cover any potential verdict or settlement that we can potentially get, as well as try to come up with a global settlement where everybody chips in, and that sort of mitigates the losses of all the different parties. And then they can seek contribution from one another if they need to, or they can cross-complain against each other, but it creates basically a big spaghetti, a big salad bowl, where it makes it easier for me as a lawyer, as a plaintiff's attorney, to try and force a settlement. Because ultimately that's what you want. You want to try and settle. You don't want to be in a position. Oh, hey, can you guys see me? Hey, what's going on, guys? You don't want to be in a position where you can't collect. You want to be in a strong position where everybody wants to settle. So you want to strengthen your position, have as many deep pockets as possible. And so in this particular case, 5 Supreme Court justices, and I'm going to try to remember their names. I believe it was Jackson Brown, the one who doesn't know the difference between a male and a female. A gift to the pharmaceutical lobby, I guess, who wants to do transgender surgeries and make sure that your son or daughter is a lifelong mental and surgery patient on anabolic drugs or hormones for the rest of their life. So what I would say, so that's the first one, and then I think Justice Barrett, Gorsuch, then Alito, but I don't think Alito actually was involved directly as far as being DQ'd, but he may have been with one of the co-defendants. And then, did I say Barrett? Oh, and the other one, so I got, no, but anyways, there's 5 of them. I'll try, I can't remember all their names. I think I missed one of them. Anyways, they disqualified themselves from hearing this case, which, oh my gosh, look at that. Thank you, Steve. $20 from Steve. Hoorah! Thank you, brother. I just got a donation from Steve. Thanks for helping out with the channel, man. This is gonna be a doozy for you guys. Hopefully you'll like this. Appreciate that, Steve. And I appreciate you guys supporting my channel. It means a lot to me. It's been really hard to do these shows with my back all screwed up. But I think I'm over 60 million views, guys. 60 million, count them. I've got almost 52 or 53,000 subscribers and over 60 million views. That's more than a lot of these auditor channels have. And that tells me that I'm giving you stuff that you guys want. And what I've been doing is I'm actually doing these shows based on, I think this is another show. This was sent to me by Kinetic Customs and Racing. And by the way, a big shout out to Kinetic Customs and Racing. So Kinetic Customs and this link from Steve Lados about the Supreme Court disqualifying themselves. And the big thing here, guys, is I think that Steve, either on purpose or not maybe, but probably more like on purpose because he's a lot more neutral than I am, missed on purpose or not by on purpose the elephant in the room. And we're going to talk about that elephant in the room in a minute. So, or what do they call it? The bull in the china shop. But anyways, so these guys disqualify themselves from hearing the case. And it's a case with the primary defendant being the primary defendant. And by the way, I can't see all your comments, guys, because I'm driving. And I know you don't want me to get in a wreck. So forgive me if I don't see your super chats right away. Oh, Grateful Dabs, I do see that. Thank you, brother. Strip Club Fun. Arr! Yeah, strip club fun. That's right. We got to head down to the strip. Next time you guys are in town, I'll try to get a hall pass from my wife to go to the strip club. She trusts me. She knows that I'm not going to do anything stupid. I don't waste my money on women. I already have one woman where the money is well spent. Give me a bunch of ones if you have a happy marriage like that, where you know your money is well spent because you know your wife is legit and she's going to look after those babies for you, which is God's plan for all of us if we're capable of having kids. So, in my opinion. So anyways, these justice, Sotomayor was the other justice. They disqualified themselves from this case, which had the effect of allowing the lower court's verdict to stand in favor of defendant Penguin Books and co-defendants. And of course, these co-defendants, all, including Penguin, in some way or another, apparently had a connection with some or all of the justices who recused themselves. And so that their recusal from the case had the effect of disentitling the parties in the case from a quorum. So the case went up. It was a copyright case involving significant allegations of plagiarism. And again, this is all by memory, and I know a lot about plagiarism and copyright law because when I was on my way up as a certified law student on the law study program, I worked for a lot of different attorneys for free. And one of the lawyers I worked for represented, I think his name was John Keith Idema. Google him sometime, Idema. And he had a lawsuit, as I recall, it was against Seals or Sony. I'm going based on pure memory, guys. It's been over 20 years. And he's one of these guys who, his claim to fame is allegedly he was an Army Green Beret special operator, and he is the guy who found nuclear fissile materials or bombs coming in from Russia, and he confiscated them, and then he wrote a story about it, and then this story became a movie, and it had that left-wing commie, George Clooney. I think he's a commie anyways. Most actors are, right? Devil worshippers, Luciferians, part of the Democrat Party, who basically, they did this movie. It made a lot of money. I forgot the name of the movie, but I know a lot about it, and one of the issues has to do with substantial similarity, and the lower courts found that it was not substantially similar. This book that was allegedly plagiarized or whatever was not substantially similar, and just because there was some plagiarism involved, it didn't rise to the level of a true copyright infringement. But it was strong enough to go up to the Supreme Court, and 5 of the Supreme Court justices disqualified themselves, having the effect of cushioning and saving Penguin Books and the co-defendants, who apparently are connected politically with some of these justices. So that's the issue that I have. That's the elephant in the room that I have, guys, is that once there's not a quorum, the Supreme Court is disentitled from hearing the matter. And so there's no finality other than what the lower courts had decided. And in this case, all of those judges had received money from who? From who? The person that was being sued. And when I say person, I mean the corporation. Because a person's not an individual, right? So when I say person, I mean the corporation. And so because of that, I am referencing the corporation as well as probably individuals that were being sued. So in that case, what happened is the actual person that was being sued, or persons and individuals that were being sued, were cushioned and they were saved. So Penguin Books was saved. And so why do I think that has the appearance itself of impropriety? Well, because all of these justices had book deals, or at least 4 of them, with Penguin Books. So to me, it just looks really bad. It's another one of those reasons why I say you need to form parallel systems and stay as far away from government as possible, because to me, it just looks like they're all part of the same club. You notice that several of the people who went after Trump, the black lady prosecutors, all went to the same school together, Howard, and that Judge Merchan was a big-time donor to the Democrat Party, and he was found to be in violation of the Code of Judicial Canons for that, but he still stayed on the case against Trump, and his daughter raised millions of dollars for the Democrat Party on the promise that her father would get convictions against Trump, the 34 felonies or whatever it was. And of course, we know that if you bring a case in New York or DC against a Republican, well, you're always going to lose, right? Because you have a biased, far-left progressive jury, a George Soros jury. So let's get back into it. So in any event, and I'm at the gym, so I'm going to make this as quick as possible because I do want to train. Hold on, guys. Hopefully you guys can see me. So in any event, what happened here is the Supreme Court justices went ahead and recused themselves, which had the effect of shielding Penguin from a potential reversal, and it shielded Penguin. And so what Steve Leto said is he has a problem with this. He was saying that you shouldn't even be allowed to run for justice, as I recall. I'm sort of ad-libbing or paraphrasing, because it does have the appearance of impropriety when a judicial candidate accepts money from a book company because it looks like it could be a payoff or maybe for a future gift down the road, which in this case may have been. So, hey, Alan Hub says, been to strip clubs in my life. Pretty sad scenario. Yeah, it's true. They are. It's kind of a nightmare. Those girls are a lost cause. I'd never go anywhere near them as far as having a relationship. That's for sure. So that was the issue that I have with this, is that it looks like that it has the appearance that these same people who receive payments from Penguin could say, oh, I'm disqualified because I'd taken money from these people before. But in this case, the case was against them and could have been reversed against them, and Penguin could have been liable for millions of dollars, as well as the co-defendants. So that's the problem that I have with that. And it just shows you, remember the guy, what was his name, Hoover, the guy who headed up the FBI, he had index cards on all these political candidates, video and audio, and, spied on government officials and blackmailed them in order to keep his job. And so that's why I always tell you guys that we should only elect people into office that have squeaky clean records and can't be compromised. And that brings me to the next issue. One of my other viewers, who will remain silent because he still works in the judiciary, said, hey, look, why don't you talk about the Justice Roberts adoption, which was buried by the left-wing press, by the George Soros-run press, communist China-run press, because that could be another reason why he has a sketchy record in his votes, like, in support of Obamacare and fleecing the American taxpayer, stuff like that. And so I said, what do you mean? And so I did the research, and it appears as though John Roberts and his wife adopted some children, apparently from Ireland. And it was like a secret adoption where the parties and everything was confidential. But the problem is in Ireland, you can't have confidential adoptions. It has to be public and on the record. And so many people say that he may be compromised and that the CIA or the FBI, the people who really run the government, like the Mossad, for example, they basically own these justices, right? And so we'll talk about the Hunter Biden artwork thing and Joe Biden's auto pen in just 1 second. But because it all ties together. So it appears as though many people, and they call it conspiracy theories, but as we know, almost every conspiracy theory that we hear about ends up becoming true. For example, I knew that Joe Biden had dementia back in 2019. You could tell. I mean, I've done elder abuse law for years, and I can tell when someone's got dementia. Obviously, Joe Biden had dementia. When they were putting up cardboard and trying to cover up the voting machines and the vote counters, who were all Democrats, basically, in most of these states, trying to cover it up so the vote counters couldn't watch, and the press covered it up and said, oh, that's because the people that were counting the votes were causing trouble, and they were Trump supporters, so we had to block them from seeing how these people were counting the votes. And then in Georgia, you saw this woman pulling out boxes from under a table, like hundreds of thousands of ballots from under a table that she had snuck in earlier in the morning and hid under a table with drapes down the side. And then they said, oh, there's a heavy water leak upstairs. And they told all the vote counters, you need to leave. You guys have to leave because there's a water leak. We promise we're going to stop counting votes for the night. And so what do? They kicked out the vote counters, but hidden cameras or the surveillance cameras that these dumbass low IQ voter workers didn't see caught this woman pulling out all these boxes stuffed with ballots from underneath tables, and they started running them 2 and 3 times through the voting machine. And of course, CNN, PMS, NBC, and all the usual suspects, government-run, CIA-run news, said nothing to see here. That's normal to kick out constitutionally mandated vote watchers, poll watchers, and lying about there being a leak, a water leak, and counting votes through the night after they said they were going to stop. And nothing to see here. If you disagree with us, you're a conspiracy theorist and you need to be silenced. And so that's what happened. And so in this particular case, we have another issue where many people are saying that this adoption with John Roberts' children was either brokered through Wales, where they could do it privately, or it was done in Mexico, where it could be done secretly. And since the records are concealed, you don't know. So Stephen Miller, who's a Trump guy, has a government watchdog, or started a government watchdog nonprofit. And they filed a lawsuit against Justice Roberts because Justice Roberts, lo and behold, is in charge, apparently, of a judicial watchdog group that investigates judicial corruption, sort of like the Commission on Judicial Performance. You can look this up yourself. And so what the allegations are is that this group oversees things like allegations made of Supreme Court justices receiving kickbacks and money and gifts, right? And we know that one of them's against the black Supreme Court justice, the conservative Thomas. But all of them are, have allegations against them for receiving kickbacks and gifts. And that Justice Roberts' group is the one that gets to decide if these investigations go forward. So these are the allegations. I'm not saying they're true or not. I don't know. I'm just a lawyer. So, all I can do is look at the evidence, and then I'll let the facts lead me where they may. But all those investigations apparently were quashed by this judicial overwatch group. And what Miller is saying is, no. This is one of the things that's really interesting to me, is that Miller doesn't care if these justices are Democrats or Republicans. He's going after all of them, which kind of reminds me of me. It's like the more I see this guy in operation, the more I respect him, because he's literally going after anybody who he thinks might be a scumbag. And so what Miller's group has done is they filed a lawsuit against Justice Roberts. I believe it's a FOIA lawsuit. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I don't even think Patrick Kelly, I don't even think Joe knew what country he was in. Joe is just basically a tool used by Barack Obama for Barack Obama's third term, and the auto pen to destroy our country, in my opinion. But anyways, so what's going on here is Justice Roberts is now being sued. It's really, really interesting because that very same organization that he allegedly heads would in fact be the same organization that would investigate him for example, an illegal adoption that could have compromised him. Now, let's say that WikiLeaks is right. And all these emails are real and they're not made up by the Republican Party, for example, because they always say, the Republicans made it up, right? Let's say that WikiLeaks was right and that all these things about Pizzagate and Roberts adopting children illegally have compromised him the way that Hoover compromised a lot of our justices and presidents. If that's the case, then it would show that our entire judiciary is also corrupt. So that's something that you should probably take a look at, guys. I mean, do your own research. I'm just throwing it out there. What do you guys think? Do you think that there's any truth to this stuff, or do you believe PMS, NBC, and the Communist News Network, that anything that goes against the official George Soros, Communist China-run news agencies is automatically a conspiracy theory, and anybody who mentions it is a whack job? So, and Canoe 64, a lot of people want to know that. And in fact, there is a conspiracy theory that says that Epstein from Epstein Island helped broker the adoption, and that Epstein was a Mossad agent. And so if that stuff does turn out to be true, that's really scary to me, because it shows us that all the things that Chile de Castro has been saying about the Supreme Court and the justices, it's proof that it's blackmail and run by large corporations, and that really what we want doesn't really matter. What matters is who is funding them. And this Ketanji Jackson thing is a prime example. I mean, who's the primary beneficiary of a justice who doesn't know the difference between a male and a female? Well, the trans movement and the plastic surgeons and the doctors and big pharma, who stand to make billions of dollars chopping off your son's unit or taking your daughter's arm skin and creating a fake penis for her and then putting her on medication for life and anti-rejection meds and psychotherapy, because clearly, I mean, somebody who can't accept that somebody who thinks they were born in the wrong body is going to have a lot of psychological issues. And so pharma and the medical industry, they're the ones who are going to benefit from that. The people who funded her rise to power, say many. So, and then Patrick Kelly says the G20 installs the actors we vote for. Boy, that's probably true. And so, and that's right, Kanoe64. And of course, you guys know that I think the Pfizer courts are an abomination to everything that our founding fathers stood for. And they basically disentitled the American citizen of Fourth Amendment protections. And clearly that's a problem. So anyways, guys, do you have any questions before I go hit the gym? I'm hoping that you guys like my shows. I mean, I do appreciate the donations. Now, I know several of you have purchased copies of my book, How My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad, and that's through PayPal. And I've got about 20 purchases that I need to send out, the digital versions. And what happened is my other laptop, it blew up on me. So I bought a new Apple Light, or whatever it's called, the lighter version. Anyways, I'm trying to recover all my passwords and get back into PayPal, and I'm going to make a good faith effort by tonight or tomorrow morning to send out all copies of your books. But if you guys do want to get a copy of my book, it's an ebook, and you can go to the description on my YouTube channel, click it, drop it down. There's a link for PayPal, and you can pick up a copy of my ebook. It's a really good book. And then, yeah, I do need to also cover BZ Watchdog, as well as Letso TVO and Brick Jonesy's false arrest claims. And yeah, Big Pharma loves sex change kids. That's right, Grateful Dabs. I mean, these people are really evil. I mean, you know, public school teachers trying to convince your son that he's really a girl. I mean, what a bunch of sick, demonic fucks, right? And that's right out of Moloch or Baal, if you read the Bible. I mean, this is a Luciferian, right out of the Bible. I mean, you can't get much more satanic than that. Trying to tell a little boy that he's really a girl and trying to convince them that that's the case. I mean, how confusing can that be? A teenage kid. By the way, Angelina Jolie's daughter finally snapped out of it. I hope that Jolie was smart enough not to inject her with a bunch of testosterone, because she's a beautiful kid. But apparently after that Brad Pitt divorce, that sort of helped out. So I don't know what exactly happened, but man, Angelina Jolie's daughter is a beauty. Woo! I'm so glad she grew out of thinking that she was really a boy. And they say that 99% of them do grow out of it. Just like when I was a kid, I thought I was a fireman and I wanted to be a fireman. And for a little while, I thought I was a butterfly. I'm sure glad my parents didn't try to get wings sewn on my back to justify my dysphoria. But anyways, guys, I'm going to go train. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi.